On the 4th of December 2017, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator released. The game was made to tie up loose ends and conclude the Scott Games era of the lore, which it did fulfill. However, it also created one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in all of FNaF, that being Midnight Motorist. Almost every FNaF theorist has done a video or post on this minigame, so I thought it was my turn to throw the hat in the ring. Just before we begin, make sure to like the video as it would help me out a lot, and I'm assuming if you're watching this, you love FNaF, so it would get more FNaF content in your feed if you like, so win-win situation. Also, consider subscribing if you want to see more from me, and you can always change your mind in the future. Now, let's start the video. In Pizzeria Simulator, you can buy the actual Midnight Motorist cabinet from the Standard Budget Tech catalog for $170. Once you place down the arcade cabinet and start the game, you are met with a highway and a playable car. The objective of the minigame is to make it to the end without hitting any of the other vehicles, as if you do, your point accumulation will be disrupted. However, if you stay at the bottom of the highway, there is a little opening towards the end of the course. If you go through it, you are then in a different environment, a more quiet and laid back road rather than a busy highway. The purple car keeps driving, and if you go to this area, an orange/yellow man, I'll just say orange for simplicity's sake, will step out of his car, and you can keep walking, and by then you are greeted with a dirt mound in what seems to be an outline or something. The orange guy can then leave and head left on another road which takes you to a parking lot with a building in it called Juniors. There is a green person outside the building, and if you approach him, he says, "Come on, you know you can be here. Don't make this more difficult than it has to be." The orange guy then leaves and continues his trip before making it back to his house. He then walks inside his house, and the person on the couch says, "Leave him alone tonight. He had a rough day." The orange guy then walks up to the runaway's door and knocks on it, saying, "I told you not to close the door." He then walks back and says, "This is my house. He can't ignore me like that." He then goes back to the runaway's door, now banging on it, shouting, "Open the door!" He then walks back and says, "I'll find a way in from outside," and proceeds to leave the house. He goes around the house and to the runaway's window, to which has been shattered, and there are footsteps running away. There are also animatronic footprints, which have 3 toes on their respective feet. Orange guy's reaction to all this is, "Ran off to that place again. He'll be sorry when he gets back." And that's pretty much where the minigame ends. Now, let's explain all things to do with this minigame, starting with the orange guy's identity. The orange guy is almost certainly William Afton, based on a number of things. Firstly, he drives a purple car, which is synonymous with Afton. Next, in 5 Nights at Freddy's, there is a spring body antenna on the Midnight Motor car, and also there is an unused description of said car, which says, "Talk about a killer ride. This smooth cruiser is the perfect choice for anyone wanting to flee a crime scene. Win a race." Considering 5 Nights at Freddy's has been updated a lot, none of these updates have erased the spring body antenna, so this is intentional and placed there by Scott's orders. So yeah, William is the orange guy. Why he's orange? Well, it's probably to show the community that he's not actually purple, because remember this game released right after all the Mike Trapper and William actually being purple shit, so Scott used yellow, which is the opposite of purple on the colour wheel. And after has been associated with yellow before, such as Sprite in FNaF 2, which has a yellowish badge on him that looks like a loaf of bread, and also Spring Bonnie's original colour was yellow. Maybe for an in-universe reason, bro was just wearing a yellow raincoat, I don't know, but let's just discuss when Midnight Motorist takes place, and also the year as well, since it falls in this category. I think it's clear that Midnight Motorist takes place on the night of Charlie Emily's murder. Firstly, both Midnight Motorist and the Screw Puppet minigame take place on a rainy night, implying a connection between the two. Also, when the puppet leaves the pizzeria, you can see tyre tracks that lead off to the right, and in Midnight Motorist, Afton seems to be driving in that same direction. Furthermore, the music in Midnight Motorist and the Screw Puppet minigame have a similar motif/beat/whatever the fucking word is. Here, take a listen. Also, the secret part of Midnight Motorist is referred to as later that night in the files, and if we go back to the unused description of the Midnight Motor, Afton is fleeing from a crime scene, so with all these connections, Midnight Motorist is just after Charlie's death. Now of the year. Due to the dice on the Midnight Motorist showing what seems to be 87, this has made many people believe Midnight Motorist is in 1987. However, with the heavy implications that Charlie was William's first murder and the 1983 code in Help 1 and 2, which if you type in, the puppet memory doll comes out, the 1987 is unlikely. Also, some people believe that since the other code, 1979, doesn't mean David's death, since Steve Romerick implies he dies in like 1975. The puppet code doesn't mean she dies in 1923, but come on guys, the 1979 stuff was just there to advertise Secret Romerick. Also, I've heard that the dice implies different numbers and there's even an 83 on it, so the 87s might not even be that concrete. Now, let's talk about Juniors and the green guy. Juniors is most likely a bar/restaurant. This is because the name Juniors is similar to names that bars normally have because of the apostrophe. For example, there's Moe's from The Simpsons, Nonan's in Batman, McShooty's in Family Guy, etc. It's possible the guy who owns Juniors is called Juniors because of this. 5 Nights at Freddy's also shows that the exterior looks like a restaurant. Furthermore, the Ultimate Guide calls Juniors a restaurant. William Afton is most likely drunk during this minigame as he's driving 200 miles per hour, and also something Hyperjoy discovered is that the Smashing Windshield song, the one that plays when you go through the secret path, is based off a Green Day song called Hitchin' a Ride. Hitching a Ride is about an alcoholic and their trouble staying sober, and also the smashing in smashing windshields could be related to how being smashed is slang for being drunk. Credit to Hyperjoy for the Green Day and smashing windshields evidence. I'll link his video in the description below. As for the green person, the way he speaks to Afton implies it's just a bouncer, so it ain't really that deep. I will say this, Junior's is definitely not the FNaF 2 location, and I don't know why this was a theory in the first place. This is due to the fact that the FNaF 2 pizzeria was a grand reopening and advertised as a big thing, not a Junior location. Now, the next subjects in this minigame are where things get really confusing, and I'll probably lose my mind. But let's just get over and done with and start with the Mound. I think there are two valid interpretations of the Mound, one of them being an unmarked grave, and the other being how it's meant to represent a location being under construction for a building or some shit. Evidence for the first one is that Tug refers to the Mound as Secret Grave, and in Five Nights at Freddy's, the Mound looks like it's an unmarked grave. Before you say anything about that no secret lore here thing, it was a joke since the developers knew people would no-click through the Mound. Also, if you're into the gaming scene, these types of hidden funny messages is common in games, like all the older GTA games did this all the time, like it's just a joke. Speaking of which, on the 5th of July 2025, my friend Brownie on Twitter found that in one of the FNaF updates, it actually removed the no secret lore message, which was probably because people were misinterpreting it as actual confirmation that the Mound didn't mean anything. For evidence that it's the start of a construction site, the Mound is inside an outline which seems to be in the shape of a building interior, and sometimes a mound of dirt is a representation of a start to a construction. Which one do I believe? Well, both are likely, but I'm leaning more towards the Mound being a grave due to Five Nights at Freddy's. Who is inside the Mound? Well, that's going to be related to the next point, which is the identity of the runaway and the couch person, aka the part where I probably go insane. The couch person really does seem like it's Michael Afton on paper. They wear grey, and speak in grey, similar to Mike in FNaF 4. They watch TV, which again is literally similar to Mike in Sis location. However, the way the couch person speaks to William implies they have some sort of authority over him. Leave him alone tonight, clearly telling William to just go away from the runaway, which doesn't match Mike to be honest. So, who's the runaway? Crying Child just doesn't match the personality of the runaway, as the runaway breaks his own window and runs off in the dead of night, whilst the Crying Child is scared 24/7 in FNaF 4. Plus, that kid is not breaking a window, like bruh. The only other option if it's not Crying Child would be Mike. I mean, it fits his personality, and also one of the other Helpy theme songs is literally called The Runaway. And the other Helpy theme songs seem to relate back to Mike in a way. Well, besides Groovy Gravy, but maybe that is just related to how Mike is dressed well due to the bear representing Mike and he is dressed well, and Groovy means fashionable and exciting, but I don't know. The couch person is probably a relative like Mrs. Afton or Grandpa Afton. Maybe Mike picks up their traits of watching TV and dressing in grey, which is why the couch person is similar to Mike, but that's a bit speculative. Couch person is definitely not Henry though, because like, why the fuck is bro leaving his daughter at the pizzeria alone to babysit Mike? Why not just bring her over to the Afton house? I go back and forth between Mike Runaway and Mike Couch, but as of right now, I lean towards Mike Runaway, especially because of the Mound and how the Runaway fits Mike's personality. Speaking of which, the body that's buried in the Mound kinda has to be Crying Child, as he's the only other relevant person in 1983 who died. Also another thing, people say that the Afton house in Midnight Motorist is the same one as the house in FNaF 4, but I disagree. There's minigame inconsistencies, yes, but this is completely changing the setting entirely. The FNaF 4 minigame house is in a neighborhood right next to Fredbear's. The Midnight Motorist house is in the middle of fucking nowhere. Also, the evidence for the pathways being similar is probably coincidental and doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. Now, let's discuss who is responsible for the animatronic footprints and what place Mike ran off to. I think the footprints belong to Shadow Freddy. The other option is Golden Freddy, but I don't know. It's implied that Crying Child doesn't have that much control of Golden Freddy due to the logbook and also the week before, so I don't find that one likely. It's probably Shadow Freddy as the only other viable candidate left under Mike Runaway, and it does make sense. Shadow Freddy has 3 toes on both feet. I was most likely created from either the Bite of 83 or Charlie's murder. The Bite of 83 evidence is that his jaw is dislodged in FNaF World, and also Nightmare, who is basically Shadow Freddy, says in Ultimate Custom Night that he's Afton's wickedness, made of flesh. Assuming Afton is the Fredbear plush, then Afton's wickedness, i.e. his negligence, will be a major cause for the Bite. For the Charlie evidence, Nightmare's wickedness line would make more sense under this theory, as Charlie was Afton's first kill. Shadow Freddy is also kinda associated with Mike as well, because Mike faces Nightmare head on in FNaF 4, and if Mike is the FNaF 3 guard, Shadow Freddy will be following him even at Fazbear Fright, since he has a chance to appear in the office. I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if that guy was somewhere in Pizzeria Simulator. Now, what would be the place in regards to where Mike ran off to? Probably the Mound if he originated from the Bite. Why Mike wouldn't be there when William goes to the Mound? Well, it could be that he broke out as William started to drive back home after the Mound visit. Maybe he heard William's car approaching, and that was his cue to leave. Plus, it would make sense. William saying ran off that place again implies a common occurrence of Mike running there, which again would make sense because his brother is buried at the Mound. If Shadow Freddy originates from Charlie's murder, then he probably leads Mike to the pizzeria. But like, I don't know at this point, man, and my brain is about to explode, so let's just go through the recap. Orange Guy is William, and he is drunk. Later that night refers to Charlie's murder. Midnight Motorist is set in 1983. Junior's is a bar/restaurant. Green Guy is a bouncer. The Mound is probably a grave with the Crying Child being buried in it. Couch person is probably another relative, but Mike being the couch person is also likely. The runaway might be Mike, but it also could be Crying Child. The footprints could belong to Shadow Freddy, and that place William refers to could be the Mound. Overall, this video could be right, but it also could be wrong, which knowing me is probably the latter. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed the video regardless, and if you disagree with some of the points I made, feel free to comment below, and remember to be respectful of one another, as it's just creepy bear again at the end of the day. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side. Goodbye!
Exotic butters.